You're listening to the Catholic Men of America podcast. Catholic Men of America is a professional business fraternity for Catholic men, and membership is free. Join us at CatholicMenofAmerica.com, and you'll benefit from networking and mentorship opportunities, find better employment, learn how to grow your business more quickly, and grow in virtue. Don't forget to follow us on LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
Today I'm interviewing Jeff Kloc. Jeff is an expert benefits consultant with Watkins Insurance in the Diocese of Austin, Texas. Today we're going to dive into one of the more complicated and expensive topics you'll ever face, and that is health insurance. Jeff specializes in helping companies with 10 or more employees explore all of the options available to them and then make the best decision. He's also got some neat things going on in his personal life, including a productive ranch near Georgetown, Texas. You're going to love this interview. Thanks for joining us.
I'm Jeff Cassman with Catholic Men of America, and today my guest is Jeff Kloc. Jeff, how you doing?
Doing great. Thanks for having me. I'm a new member and really looking forward to helping anyone any way I can, and being a member of the association.
Hey, we're excited to have you and growing rapidly, including in Texas where you are. Let's start out, give a little background about yourself, so that the men of the network can get to know you a little bit better and understand where you're coming from.
Yeah, sure. Kind of the quick life story. I was born and raised in Houston, Texas, and both sides of my family, my mom's and my dad's were both Catholic. They met at St. Thomas University in Houston, got married and had me and my brother, and grew up in Houston, and then ended up going to St. Edward's University in Austin, Texas from 86 to 90. And the first year it was Austin, as big as much as it's grown, you couldn't find a job. And I didn't want to go back to Houston. I really loved Austin. And after about a year of doing alarm system sales in a town with relatively low crime at the time, I got a call from the Career Center at St. Edward's, and they said there's an insurance company, an HMO, looking to hire. So I interviewed, got the job. And after 5 years of working for an insurance company, I became an insurance broker. Because I like the idea of helping clients out and not just working for an insurance company. And when you work for a client, you've got multiple, obviously, you can help them with all the different insurance companies, not just the one that you're working for. And so I made that move in 1997, and I've been an insurance broker ever since. So going on, 30 years or so now, and somehow I didn't think I'd be doing this in life, but I've always had the joy of working with a lot of good people and some really good clients over the years that I became very close with, and always went above and beyond just the placing of the insurance. It was always servicing and making sure that things ran smoothly in a relatively volatile product like when you use your health insurance. If you've ever used it, you know how complicated it can be, navigating the system with bills and doctors if you go to the hospital, and all the different things, deductibles and co-payments, and it was always nice being able to help people through that while they're healing and take that off their back.
Yeah, health insurance is such a big deal to us as Americans. It's so important that lots of people sacrifice financial opportunities, career opportunities, if they're happy with the insurance they've got.
Sure.
They pay a real premium for it, in other words, with their life choices. Step back, if you will, and give us a little more insight into what it means to be an independent broker, as opposed to being an agent maybe of one company or working for one insurer or one network.
Yeah, sure. Being independent was always a big thing for me, just because you want to be able to offer everybody. You want to give your client all of those options. And so where I am now at Watkins Insurance, for instance, we're independently owned. been owned by the same family for 75 years in Austin, which was very important to me. I was a partner in a firm years ago, and we sold that firm to a larger agency. And after so many years, it really just wasn't the same. It was more go hunt the elephants, don't worry about your current clients. And it just wasn't the model that I believed in and grew. So when I came to Watkins, it was refreshing to see that we're completely independent on the health insurance and all of the other insurances that offer, from dental, vision, et cetera. And even on the commercial, I'm not a commercial agent, but we have a large number of commercial agents that handle that as well. But it really allows us to be, true consultants, and it gives us a broad network of companies to go to market. Because as you said, health insurance, it usually focuses on the health insurance. The dental, the vision, the other coverages are pretty straightforward and simple in comparison, and inexpensive in comparison to medical. So that's usually what we end up focusing on. And it's not, there's no magic silver bullet, but there is a lot of hard work that goes in when we do a comprehensive marketing analysis to make sure that our clients are getting not just the best rates, but you want to make sure that their network of doctors is going to be robust enough for their employees. That's obviously very important. And what are their deductibles and copays and all of those things. So we want to make sure that they're still getting good benefits for the money, which is getting tougher and tougher. But there are a lot of other solutions out there besides just being fully insured. There's level funded, there's medical captives, which I have several clients in, which gets pretty nerdy and tricky once you talk, but they can work for the right clients. There's really, we have a lot of options we can look at, just depending on your risk tolerance and what you're trying to achieve.
So health insurance is an enormous benefit that an employer can offer. So if they're looking for the very best talent and they want to keep that talent, health insurance appears to be expensive, but it actually has a greater value to people than just money.
Absolutely.
Because if you give that same dollar to the employee, they can't necessarily go out and acquire on their own the same benefits that employer.
Right.
And so we live in a strange kind of situation. Of course, it's largely driven by government regulation that has created this mess. But we live in this strange situation where instead of the employee just saying, hey, give me the money so I can make my own decisions, although that is an option, I understand these days, oftentimes the employee would not want that anyway. And so employers need to have that expert outside consultant, even if they're even if they've got a full-time HR person or a full-time internal, administrator, that person probably does not have the insight into the marketplace and all of the relationships that you've got. So what you do is extremely valuable. Can we step back a little bit and talk a little bit about your faith experience? Because as Catholic Men of America, of course, we're looking to bring Catholic men together, but there's also a value to this network of understanding one another and the shared values that we have, and knowing that there's a certain presumption of, hey, we believe the same things. And that can be important today when employers are worried about cooperation with maybe the immoral or unethical policies of other companies, and that can get really tricky, right? Do they fund contraception? Probably. Do they fund abortion, or do they fund sex change operations, and on and on and on? I don't want to go into all of that. That wouldn't be fair to you or anybody, but to get into all those details for the purposes of today's call. But tell us a little bit about your faith journey, if you're a cradle Catholic or a convert, and kind of what that has meant in your life.
Yeah, definitely not probably the normal path. I'm a cradle Catholic. Like I was saying earlier, both sides of my family, long Catholic, Catholic history way back. And my mom's side's Irish Catholic, dad's side Polish Catholic. And I was, although raised Catholic, my father really, he's kind of a rebel, and I think he always had a belief in God. I kind of know he did, but it was really never spoken. And he really got out of going to mass. I remember seeing him in mass, I think one time when I was real little, and he just never went again. And my mom just kind of fell into that too. If he wasn't going, she quit going. And so as children, my brother and I, we didn't really go to mass. We went with my mom on Christmas and Easter, the Creaster thing. The good thing though, is my grandfather on my mom's dad was very, both of my grandparents were Catholic and but the one, my mom's parents, my grandparents, he was made sure that we were, that we stayed Catholic. And so my mom would take me to CCD, catechism classes on Sunday. I would go to mass, me and my best friend at the time, our parents would drop us off. We go to mass together, and then we would go to CCD, catechism class afterwards. Did that throughout high school. And then, honestly, in high school, I was kind of just having a good time, not even really worried about things, quite honestly. And then when I got to college, I went to St. Edward's, which of course, being a Catholic university, got back into it. I started going they had a student mass on Sunday evenings, and I would go to that and did, and then graduated, got busy with career and things, and honestly kind of got back out again, and always had a faith, but just kind of quit being a participant. And then met my wife when we were dating. Then she was Catholic too, so started going to mass together and everything. And then the next thing you know, we're getting married and having kids, and have been very involved and back in it 150%. And my children went to St. Louis, King of France Church in Austin. That's where we went for many, many years. Our kids went to Catholic school there, and they were altar servers. And then I became an acolyte and was an acolyte at St. Louis for many years. We've moved into a small town now, and they don't really use acolytes. So I'm kind of, I'll do the, when the priest is out of town, I'll do the Eucharistic adoration for our congregation who come to adoration once a week. So I'll be kind of in charge of that, which is overwhelming sometimes. A little old me doing that, I'm like, I'm not worthy, but I do that sometimes when he's out of town, and I'm there to help. He's pulled me in on Easter vigil masses and things where he's needed extra help. So, but no, that's kind of the faith journey. But now I am, it's wonderful. As you get older, you get wiser, and you really start to understand. I watch a lot of podcasts on just a lot of Catholics podcasts, but just spiritual podcasts. And I everybody's got really interesting experiences in life. And I really like hearing other people, what they see, their whole experience in the Christian faith. And I think by far being Catholic's awesome. I mean, I think the mass is incredible. Bishop Barron is one of my favorites. I watch him all the time, and the way he breaks down the mass, and really, if you really study it and you really get into it, you start to appreciate it even more. But I have 4 children. So far, all of them have kept the faith. Well, the little one's 13, so she's an altar server here in Mason, and it's been a great journey. And again, sometimes when you're away, it makes you appreciate the fact when you're back, which was a long time ago for me in my early 20s. But it makes you appreciate your faith even more, I think, when you become kind of the prodigal son, so to say.
But of course, most of us have been through some version of that, and are fortunate to have lived to an older age, and hopefully matured some. You mentioned something before we started the call that I thought was interesting. You eat a lot of what you eat. You have harvested your own.
Oh, yes, sir.
Tell us about that.
So yeah, one of my loves when I was a kid, you know, my grandfather had some property, a couple 100 acres, and you know, I was just raised to respect firearms. I remember shooting a 22. I think I was probably 5 years old with my dad helping me, and you know, was raised to respect firearms and hunting, and I loved it, and even just being out in the woods and the quiet, and so as I grew up, that was my thing, and I still to this day I love it. And so I'm fortunate enough that I was able to buy some property, and that's my refuge. You know, when I go out there, and sometimes it's by myself, sometimes it's with my son, sometimes with friends, but a lot of times I do go out there by myself, and I do hunt, and a lot of what I eat, yes, I shoot it, and I clean it, and I butcher it and freeze it myself. So it goes from field to table, as they say. And to me, it's the healthiest. You know, it's mostly organic. In Texas, I call it kind of cheat hunting. You can use timed feeders and use in corn and such. So they are eating some deer corn, but by and large, their diet is out foraging the natural vegetation that God's provided them. And so for me, it's just great to be able to kind of harvest and know where your food's coming from. And, but yeah, it's great. I love it.
So this is venison we're talking about.
Yes.
And you do.
I do hunt we have wild turkeys, and we do have wild hogs. And I examine the hog, depending if it looks nice and pretty healthy, I'll clean it. But some of the big boars are quite honestly pretty nasty. So I drag them off and let the coyotes have them.
Is that pretty frequent that you've got access to those wild hogs?
Yeah, they're a nuisance in Texas for sure. They highly encourage the harvest. They have 3 litters a year. They're pretty especially if you're a farmer. They're very destructive to your property. And they come on. I'm not a farmer or anything, but you can see where they'll come in, and they will absolutely. It looks like a disc tractor's gone through a field. They'll absolutely just destroy it. So yeah, we do try to. You know, anytime we see hogs, you have to stay on top of them, because they just keep growing, and you know, we got to they're eating and destroying a lot of what the native habitat, because technically hogs are an invasive species. They were brought in many years ago and have just multiplied over the years. So you do have to stay on top of them.
You know, they're incredible animals. We raised pigs for a while, and we were very fortunate to buy into a bloodline and genetics of these pigs that were very gentle, easy to be around. You know, my kids raised them. Even the small kids, you know, started when they were little piglets and raised them. They were very well behaved with the children. But you're right. They do to the ground whatever they want to. I mean, they're amazing at, you know, even these relatively docile breeds that are only a couple of 100 pounds can just destroy the earth. If you're looking to turn it up, I guess that's a good thing.
Yeah.
I see on social media, I guess they're in Oklahoma or Arkansas, where they've got a really big problem with this. These guys that build these enormous cages out in the wild, and then they can press the button, and the fences, the cages drop down on like a whole herd of these wild boars, and they'll get dozen, maybe more. Just an extraordinary thing to watch. Is there no value of that meat anywhere else in the food chain, like feeding them to dogs or, you know, anything? Is there no business application of that? It's just a waste.
You know, it's a good question. I know that, you know, you can take your meat to a processor, and they'll readily take your venison, but a lot of them don't really do hogs anymore. I think for a couple of reasons, because there's so many of them. I don't know that they could keep up with the demand of trying to keep up and be able to process it in a timely manner when everybody's bringing them in. But the other thing is hogs do carry a couple of diseases in the parish, in the blood. So you have to be very careful when you're cleaning them, because I have read stories of people that when they're cleaning them and they poke themselves with a knife, it can get in your blood and it gives you flu-like symptoms for months. So I think part of it is yes, the tick-borne and some of the diseases that they carry, a lot of processors just don't want to deal with the risk of that. But yeah, that's kind of entrepreneurial in thought. I mean, if you could kind of find a place that could do that and give the food to, I don't know if Hunters for the Hungry take hog meat or not. I would imagine they would. I know they do take venison, of course, but I don't know. A lot of times when they do, you can't have processed it yourself. You have to be able to take it to a legitimate processor because of the just sanitary factor of it. And but that would be something, make dog meat out of them. That would be, or dog food out of them. That would be a great idea, actually.
Yeah, one of the things we're trying to do here at CMA is support entrepreneurial activities, and a lot of men are looking for side hustles, and whether they realize it or not, a lot of men in the next few years are going to find transformation happening within their industries as AI transforms things, especially white collar type jobs, architects, attorneys, accountants, doctors, lawyers. A lot of those industries are going to have huge disruption. And so we try to kind of stay on top of outside the box ideas. And where I was going is, we've got livestock guardian dogs. A lot of people do. And even people who don't have livestock to guard like to have these big breeds, as pets. And there's this burgeoning industry of wanting to feed those dogs a healthy, natural, organic kind of meat-based diet instead of just dog food. And I just thought, if there's this really surplus of wild meat out there, that could be an interesting, connection. You shoot the hog and then there's several hundred pounds of meat there, and maybe there's some value to a niche marketplace with that. Not really the topic for us today. I apologize.
That's an interesting thought. I'm going to do a little looking into that. That's
maybe there's a member out there that knows more about this, and they'll tell us why it was a good or bad idea. All right, back to business. So you're in a very complicated but important business, health insurance for small employees. What's the size employer that you really specialize at, that you would consider yourself an expert?
Really, we at our agency, we really need to have at least 10 enrolled in the medical plan. So sometimes that can mean 10 employees if all of them are enrolled. Unfortunately, more and more with the cost of health insurance and employers struggling with subsidizing the employee's cost, that's gone down in percentage over the years. It used to be 95 to 100% contribution by our employers, and then it kind of slowly has dropped to 75%, and now I'm running into a lot of 50%, meaning that they'll pay 50% of the employee only premium. So in turn, a lot of times you have people that can't afford or maybe go procure it elsewhere. But so a lot of times it can be anywhere between 15 and 20 employees will get at least 10 enrolled. But anything from that, north of that, is something that I can handle. I've worked with groups, that size all the way up to, I had a county here in Texas that had, I think, 1,200-ish employees. Worked with plenty of firms, in the Austin area, we do have a lot of firms that are smaller in size, but we've grown over the years. So we have a lot of 2, 3, 4, maybe 500 employee groups, but can easily handle those as well. So really my expertise, and I can do fully insured, level funded, self-funded. So I can handle really any type of arrangement, funding arrangement or medical insurance that's needed for the firm.
So you've got kind of traditional employer paid insurance, group health insurance, then you've got self-funded plans, and you've also got some other options I know where employers can go with a much more flexible arrangement. They kind of give money to the employer, they give a credit to the employee, and the employee can really kind of customize. Isn't that an option these days?
So there's a couple that see if I'm on the right track of what you're bringing up. So there is something called an individual coverage health reimbursement arrangement. It's called an ICHRA. And what the employer can do is they cannot offer a group health plan, but they're telling the employees, I'm not going to offer a group health plan, but you all can go out and get an individual plan and we will reimburse you for the premium for that plan. And they can even reimburse some of the deductible or some of the out-of-pocket if they want. The nice thing about it is the plan document you set up will allow you, the employer, to give, when you give the money to those employees, it's tax-free. So it's and it's not very expensive to set up at all, an ICHRA document. So that's one way you can do it, is if you just want, I don't want to get into offering health insurance, go get your own and we will reimburse you with tax-free dollars for your premium. That's one way to do it. Another way, which you may be alluding to, is what calls kind of a cafeteria plan kind of style. And what you do is you offer medical, maybe 2 or 3 medical plans. You offer a dental plan, a vision plan, disability, life insurance, and you say, we're going to give you, like I have a client I was talking to yesterday, or a prospective client, we're going to give you $600. And you buy what you want with that $600. So if you've got a medical plan through your spouse, you're happy with that, buy dental, buy the Cadillac dental plan, buy vision, buy as much life insurance as you want. So they give them a kind of a stipend and let them buy among the benefits that the company offers. So yeah, you could go either way with those, and we can certainly help educate and help with those.
I've heard a lot about health sharing plans in the last few years. I've heard good things and bad things, but it occurs to me that some employers, as you mentioned, just they don't want to deal with it, they can't handle it, but they do want to offer some sort of option to their employees. In the kind of situation you described, could a person take one of those, like a stipend, or take that reimbursable amount and then go get a health sharing plan that they liked?
Certainly.
With a Catholic firm or a Christian company or one of the others. And that would, in theory, allow every employee to have precisely what they wanted, or what they could afford, at least within their
Right.
budget.
Right. Yeah, they could do the MediShare. They could also, the only, kind of the downside of doing that arrangement is that the individual market, like you said, you had mentioned it earlier, is not quite as robust as the group market. So we do have companies that, if you want to do the HRA deal, they make it pretty turnkey in that you basically contract with this company. They manage the HRA funds for you, and they handle all the administration of that, but they also have a menu of health plans you can choose from. So, you can go out and get an individual agent that can, that specializes in individual, which I do have a couple that I refer folks to, or you can go with a company that will say, okay, we're going to do everything from start to finish. Here's all the plans you have. You pick the best plan. The premium is listed there. We invoice your employer. And that's how, and the money goes into your bank account, via, the direct deposit. So, we can handle it, either way. But yeah.
You're, as we talked about earlier, you're an expert at company employer provided insurance benefits, especially 10 employees and more. What if somebody doesn't have 10 employees, or what if they're a solopreneur? We're seeing a lot of these new companies, they've just got one person.
Yeah.
People are starting up businesses in their homes and working from home, and it's a great thing. Those folks need health insurance options as well. What do you do for somebody like that? Do you have somebody else in the firm that you refer them to, or is there another outside individual that you can send?
Yeah, it's an outside individual. Yeah, that we send our individuals to, and then he's able to look at the ACA, Affordable Care Act plans, individual plans, see if you qualify for a subsidy through the Affordable Care Act. Now, the subsidies, and this is going to get pretty interesting, are set to expire at the end of this year unless Congress decides to extend them. So I have not read anything to date. It's not, since I don't really do individual, I'm not as up to date on it, but I do try to stay a little bit with this because it's going to affect a lot of people that are in the individual market if they lose subsidies to help offset their premium costs. So we'll see what happens. You never know with Congress, so we'll see.
Yeah, I would not bet on, having subsidies for my health insurance in the future. I think it's going to get very interesting from what I hear, especially younger people, making the decision to start, bearing some of the exposure themselves with higher deductibles and, cash payment arrangements with doctors and so forth. It's going to be very interesting. As we wrap it up here, what are some things that you would offer to Catholic men who might need your kind of help? What's a good way for them to get started? Is there a analysis or an audit that you can do for an existing employer to kind of help them figure out if you can provide additional value to them? Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I lead. My faith's very important to me, and I lead with a servant heart in that, I'm just, use me as a resource. Reach out. I'm happy to help answer questions. Yes. And if you've got a benefits you're offering and you would like me to take a look and see what I think about it, I'm more than happy to do that. It is a little tough in that, each employer, depending on the type of plan you're in, your rates are really predicated on the health status of the company, your age and sex mix-up of the company. A lot of that goes into two major factors that go into the determination of your rate. So I do have people that will reach out and be like, are these hot? Do these look good? And it's like, I've seen young male plumbing companies that have very low rates because they just don't go to the doctor. And I've seen older, CPA and law firms of folks that are older and they use it and their premiums are higher. But what I can guarantee you is that I will, if you do decide to move and use me as your agent, you will get excellent service and you will get an honest, assessment of your situation, and you will have a hardworking guy. I mean, I've been doing this a long time, and, honestly, servicing and just taking care of your clients is what I love to do. And so you will definitely get your money's worth with me and making sure that you have the best benefits for the best price so that you can attract and retain, great employees that will want to stick around. Very good. Well, thank you for sharing your time today. As an independent broker, thank you. You're in a good position to help out Catholic men and, of course, Catholic families as well. One final question about your business model. How do you get paid? Does the employer have to pay you a consulting fee? Are you paid by an insurance company? What does that look like? Yeah, most of the time we are paid through the commissions are baked into the premiums that you pay. And so when you pay your bill, your medical bill, or your medical insurance bill, then they determine sometimes it's a percentage, and then sometimes it's a flat per employee per month fee. And then they remit that to our agency out of your premium billing. I think nowadays I only have one client that pays us a consulting fee directly. And that's a municipality. A lot of times municipalities will want all of their premiums to have the commissions pulled out of the plans. Depending on the size, if you're under 50, typically that can't be done. If you're over 50, we can do things net of commission, and then you can pay us a direct consulting fee if you'd rather do it that way. So it's pretty flexible either way. If you're over 50, if you're under 50, the commissions are baked in and we're paid directly by the medical carrier. And you're located in South Texas, but I assume that you can handle any employer from elsewhere in Texas if somebody were to see this and call you. Are there any other states in which you're licensed to do business?
Technically, we're licensed. Our agency is licensed, I believe, in all states. If
Wow.
not all, it's very close. So we can do that. A lot of times, sometimes it can behoove you to use, if you're in a different state than Texas. If there are some carriers like in California, they have Kaiser and some carriers. I think we're appointed with them, but sometimes it can do you well. And I'll be completely honest with you, if that's the case. I mean, we'll certainly market the big guys, Aetna, Humana, Cigna, Blue Cross and all of that. But if there is a local carrier there that we're not aware of, and we're not appointed with them, we would not be able to quote them. So I would basically say, yeah, you need to find somebody that's more local. But most of the time nowadays, after COVID, everybody's so spread out. We're able to help really through Zoom and everything else. And we're able to help a lot of employers, even if they're outside of Texas.
Excellent. Jeff, thank you for your time. Yeah. We'll include links to your website and your social media accounts and all that sort of stuff so people can get in touch with you.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Have a great day, and it's great to welcome you to Catholic Men of America.
Yes, I'm happy to be here. Looking forward to it. Thank you.
Today I've been talking with Jeff Kloc. Jeff is an expert benefits consultant with Watkins Insurance. He lives in the Diocese of Austin, Texas. He's been in the business for 30 years. If you're an employer and you have 10 or more employees and you want a second opinion on your health insurance options, reach out to Jeff. You can find him on LinkedIn or at watkinsinsurancegroup.com. You can call him on the telephone at 512-637-4411, or you can reach him by email at jkloc, that's KLOC, at watkinsinsurancegroup.com. Peace be with you.
You've been listening to the Catholic Men of America podcast. Catholic Men of America is a professional business fraternity for Catholic men, and membership is free. Join us at catholicmenofamerica.com, and you'll benefit from networking and mentorship opportunities, find better employment, learn how to grow your business more quickly, and grow in virtue. Don't forget to follow us on LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.